Alright, let's resume the previous video and start with onboarding. Now we have interviewed and finalized the client. Finalized the hiree. Obviously, first thing is you would want to give them the offer, and within the offer, you tell them about the expectations that would be required of them, the non-compete agreements, the contract, the clauses, get their company email, all of those things set up. Um, And then when they're coming in, so the thing is, the onboarding is one of the most important times, just like it is for new clients. The same applies for hiring new employees because their first week to three, four, like week to a month needs to be like spot on, and you can make it and you can improve it. But that decides how productive they are and how well they perform and how that impacts the overall company and its culture. It's like people usually wing through it in the sense that, well, he'll be fine. We don't need to go the extra mile. But like, it's the difference between good and great. And your team being extremely excellent is dependent on how good you do the onboarding, right? So let's get started. First thing will be exciting, get them, welcome them in and all of those things, but set clear expectations of what their responsibilities are, what is going to be required of them, why is that important to the team, how important that role is to their team. They're like all the you know, specific requirements of the role, the nitty-gritty that they would have to take care of, and the KPIs and the targets that they need to meet, and all of those things. I'll cover that next. But anyways, besides that, obviously give them a welcome package, acclimatize them. I've added two examples of that, like give them like a shirt, give them like gear that is personalized to the company with its own logos on it, so they feel like they're part of the group, they feel like they're included, get them to talk to the rest of the team members, get them to familiarize themselves with each other, build those relationships, build those connections. It also allows the rest of the team to get to know them better. You could do like you could do it separately where you're like schedule 15-minute meetings with that person with the rest of the team, especially when teams are small. This is fine. Like if there are five, six people, it's more than enough for them to get on the same page. And also brief your team in advance to be welcoming, have start on a good foot, and obviously first impressions matter. But yeah, besides that, they're starting on a right foot. Try to induce a sense of responsibility and ownership from the get-go, and that culture of it being an environment for winners, right? Where when they see others and when they see how they conduct themselves, they would realize the amount of effort and expectations that are set for them, and they would try to deliver on it. Next thing, communication cadence. So get them organized, like have them at least talk to you every day for even if it's like 10 to 15 minutes, but like try to get comfortable with them like on their first day, and then generally depending on how much your availability is, like once a week or something. Um, just so any questions they have or anything else can be taken care of. Assign team leaders that can support them. They can shadow someone, um, do all that stuff. And obviously, the team huddles, the like daily huddles, the weekly meetings, the monthly meetings, the quarterly meetings, like get them to show up on those, the briefing on those, and all that stuff. Training, coaching, obviously, you can train anyone to be an expert, especially if you hire the right person who is growth heavy. This is the area, especially when they're new, where you can leverage that skill of them. Because in the beginning, people want to do something. Try to get them to learn as much as possible, and not just on watching videos, but get them to practically implement it and practically see those strategies and apply them. Like this is the place where you can mold someone, especially in their first few days, right? Because they will be building new habits and they will be learning new skills here, and you can craft it and shape it up in whatever direction you want it to be in. So, get them to practice sales a certain way, get them to learn marketing, get them to habituate to um, reporting people on a regular basis, or all the habits that you want somebody to have. This is the period during the training, as well as everywhere else where you can do that. Give them a company overview, cover all the departments, cover the values, cover the mission, cover the vision. Explain to them why that's important, cover how it functions so they understand why their role is important. So, for example, if they're doing sales, or if they're doing like coaching, then tell them that this is how the clients that come to us have a great experience. They refer their friends and they stay for longer. And also we deliver them on the package, on the service. So all the guys in the back end that are in marketing and they are in sales and that are in the acquisition department, the reviews and testimonials that you bring with your service is what would keep them happy and keep them want to do better because they would feel like they're doing a better job. And that is within your control, right? Get them to see that, empower them, get them to feel that. Um, Clear action steps and targets, obviously, mentioned that earlier, give them the role and everything else that they need to do, blah, blah, blah. Okay, now I'll cover briefly some leadership things that as your teams are developing and everything else, things that you can include and focus on. Obviously, define your vision and values and make them known everywhere because that acts as a filter for all the actions and everything else you do. That defines your culture and what people will be rewarded for and what they won't be rewarded for. What is punished, what is not accepted. If, for example, Project Starlet's um, main company vision and mission is building and scaling businesses and people that can make the world a better place, right? So our goal is to empower them and empower the businesses that can have that impact and that can change the world. And that's why we do everything we do. And that's why we want people who are ambitious. And that's why, like, our values are high ambition, responsibility, wanting to make a change, be it like the teamwork and all of those things. And we discuss them on a regular basis. They're put on walls. They're mentioned during team meetings. You recover it every time, like you do those sessions and everywhere else, right? Next thing, set goals that are linked to those values as well as financially and all other areas. So the five levers, right? Have goals for all five of them and then make them clear. This would make you aligned in the vision and direction you're heading in. So you can do the reverse maths even. For example, if you want to get your business to $1 million in revenue, by the end of the year. And so you know that that means on a monthly basis, you need like 70 to 80 new clients, right? And if you're adjusting it for quarterly, where you're compounding it as you hire more staff, you can break that down, but have those things mapped out where this is the client target we need to hit. For to do that, we would probably need to run this many ads, we need this many leads, depending if you should know your numbers by now. The KPIs that we need to meet, the sales targets and everything else, and the fulfillment. We need to hit this many testimonials. We need to do all of these things, blah, blah, blah. The main vision, how are we getting there? Do those for daily. So people are clear on what they need to achieve and accomplish. Discuss those in team huddles, weekly, monthly, quarterly, yearly, right? Um, just so there's a clear direction in what the team is heading in. And it's fine if it changes, but it's better to have a clear action plan and clear goals than have none at all. Sorry, it's better to have imperfect goals or like, even if like it's better than not having anything there because your team, people don't like to think. And you're the leader. This is your job. Like people won't understand the goals on your behalf. They won't think rationally because of authority bias, right? They would take your word for it. And if you're showing them the lazy behavior or unorganized or disorganized direction, that's what they're going to follow as well because that will become the standard for them because they think that's acceptable and you tell them it's not acceptable. And you do that by setting clear targets. Communication cadence, daily huddles, weekly meetings, monthly, record them in daily huddles, empower the team, get them set up for the day, answer any questions you have, summarize the performance, everything else, and then move on. Same for weekly one for the most part, but for weekly, you set up weekly strategies. Monthly, like all of these, record them, share the vision, new innovation ideas you guys are planning on implementing, acknowledge people, celebrate birthdays or whatever, do all of those things, build that culture, do events and activities that induce team performance, team bonding, and culture. Um, Hold leaderboards, hold reward people for better performance. And like that's what I think Hormozy defined the culture as the things that within a group people are rewarded and punished for. So if someone like um if a new hire comes in and everyone else takes the initiative, even if they're not required to go out of their way and show them around and get them used to the new working environment, because that is supportive of our team values. Acknowledge that. Acknowledge the people who did that. Reward them. Praise them in the daily meetings. Praise them in the weekly meetings. And that's when people see that, they would realize that that's what we are being rewarded for in this environment. So that's part of the culture, and they take those actions as positive and negative feedback loops, right? That's like simplifying it. And as well as things that you can't do. Like if somebody does that, then you know that they're not being acknowledged or for it, or their feedbacks were internally through managers or through one-on-ones, you would tell them that this is something that we don't want to focus on because it doesn't align with our values, right? If somebody's being too independent, like if they're being too isolated or if they're being rude to others or whatever, right? Fire toxic teammates, super important. There was a law of horrible people where um the team will come at the level of your least performing employee because they see that's acceptable. So if I'm putting in all the effort and the energy and somebody else is getting the same pay and and they're not being held accountable for anything and they're not performing as well, then why do I need to exert myself? Unless someone has really strong um, work ethic and personal reasons for performing, it just like lowers the barrier for everyone. But if everyone is good and everyone is performing, then it creates a winning environment. And to do that, if you find somebody who's not performing or who's not like, get rid of them. Find new people. There is no shortage of talent. But at the same time, having the wrong talent will keep you stuck and will keep everyone else stuck too. And by toxic, like if they're creating drama, if they're deliberately, repeatedly not performing right, if like when people are not as good. And they're like, I can list off a lot of traits for it, but depending on your company's values, because one might prefer people who are a bit cocky, the other might not. But at the same time, whatever your culture is, highlight that. Manage the team and your stress. I heard this somewhere that your job is to be a therapist, being the team leader, because everybody will come to you for your problems, with their problems, right? And your ability to handle that will directly correlate to team's performance. So, um, get better at helping people overcome their sadness, their negative emotions, fear, anxiety, whatever, in the sense of encourage them, reward them, have those feedback loops. If you anticipate someone who's probably you think they're struggling, be there for them. Um, and also at the same time, take better care of yourself. There was this great book that was like, don't sweat the small stuff and it's all small stuff. Like, we sometimes worry so much about all of these things that in the long run won't matter as much. You miss one bus, there's another bus coming. What's the worst that's going to happen? And you will face problems anyways, but your ability to logically think about it and act with an objective state of mind without letting your emotions cloud your judgment would be directly correlated to how better decisions you can make. And even if you make mistakes, expect that and be okay with it because you can fix them and have that faith in yourself. And do know that you'll get better the more you do this. It doesn't get easy, you just become better. And that applies for you and everyone else. And if you're the crazy person who decided to take on this role, then kudos to you, because you'll get the return and reward for it as well. And the last one, which is get your hands dirty and lead from the front. People follow leaders who are willing to serve, um, and show that they can do the same thing. That's like what earns the respect, right? So if like you're staying up doing like if you're working after hours and you're showing the ambition and showing how much you care about the company's success, others would see that and would wanna push themselves and stay up late. If you're if you see somebody struggle and you reach out and help them because of that situation or whatever, um, even when you were not required to, even if it wasn't related to work, others would see that and they would become supportive as well. If you have that ability to jump in when things are getting hard and take care of the environment and like unapologetically be there for someone and nudge them into the right direction, others would see that and they would rise to your level, which is why you want to be the person who can induce that ability in others, right? And like people had this saying where I think in Leaders Eat Last, where Simon Sinek said that um, work-life balance also works in reverse. For some people, if they feel more comfortable at their workplace than they do at home, then their work is the life is like where they get the balance, and the home is a place where they don't want to be. And many people, if you're hiring newbies or whatever, the work culture where they're spending most of their time, if that ends up being the place they enjoy, and that ends up being the place that is their safe zone and their comfort zone, which if you do your job right would be, then that's where they would excel. And they would genuinely want to do better and be better, right? And that's kind of what you want to objectify for. And finally, scaling will cost you money and time before it gives you money and time, which is absolutely fine. That's the trade-off we make. All right. Now I will see you guys probably in the next video, which I'll cover a few brief things of fulfillment and close everything together. But besides that, this is probably like lessons for the team. I think there was so much that I could have added, I'll be honest here. But I wanted to keep it intact for the sake of this program, where I just give you the bits and things that can give you the highest leverage for the input that you do. And later on, I might add more stuff later. Um, but yeah, for a lot of you, or for the people who are working with me, these would be the things that would be beneficial, especially when it comes to hiring, especially when it comes to training, especially when it comes to maintaining the culture and keeping people in order. And it seems boring and it seems basic, but this is what works. The boring things and the most obvious things are the most obvious for a reason. And the people who are at the top always do the boring work and gets you the most results. So might seem basic, but don't neglect it.